Welcome to Sports Spectrum, the sports and faith podcast that brings Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Welcome, everyone, to Sports Spectrum. I am Jason Romano. Got a little bonus episode for you here today on the show as we talk to Baltimore Ravens offensive lineman James Hurst. And if you know the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL right now, they are the number one seed, 11-2, the best record in the NFL, 9 straight wins, and they're on fire right now with the MVP in Lamar Jackson. And James Hurst is on that offensive line blocking for Lamar Jackson, and he's been there now 6 seasons in the NFL since arriving in Baltimore as an undrafted free agent in 2014 out of North Carolina. The Ravens signed him, and he's been there since. Now in his 6th year, he signed a 4-year contract extension in March of 2018. Started all 16 games for the Ravens in 2017. One of those versatile linemen that can play many different positions. And he's a leader on the field, but even more, he's a leader off the field. This guy leads team Bible studies, couple Bible studies with his wife, Amanda, each week during the season. And there was a really cool moment that happened with Hurst and the team chaplain, Johnny Shelton, as they baptized a teammate earlier this season. So God's doing some cool things in the locker room with the Ravens, not just on the field, but away from the field. James Hurst is right in the middle of that, and this was a great conversation talking to James here on Sports Spectrum. Take a listen to our conversation, a little bonus episode here on Sports Spectrum with James Hurst, Baltimore Ravens offensive lineman, here on Sports Spectrum. James, welcome to Sports Spectrum.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for this opportunity.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you, James. And we're catching you at a good time here in early December, and the team's playing really well. You come off a win, a very tough win at Buffalo, and a tough win the week before against the 49ers. This has been somewhat of a transition year for you on the field, but you're still a huge part of the team, obviously. All the players that are active are a huge part of a success of a winning team. So how much fun has this been for you being a part of watching what the Ravens have done this year so far?
It's been a blast. I mean, it's obviously really special. Doesn't come around very often. And, I'm lucky to have played, 5 years before this, and you kind of see the ups and the downs just from the league being so competitive. So I'm glad we're on the right end of it this year, and we've got some great momentum going, and hopefully just, keep that rolling into the postseason.
So like watching Lamar Jackson in practice. I'm just fascinated by it. Obviously the whole country is fascinated by watching him, but you're around him every day and watching him you saw him last year as a rookie and then this year kind of just taking it to a whole nother level. What's it like to be around him every day?
He's truly one of a kind. He is definitely blessed with abilities that very, very few people are. And just, every single week, I tell myself, he's unbelievably talented and quick and fast and elusive. And then every single week, he still surprises you somehow. So it's really awesome to be, on the same team with him and just be reaping the rewards of his abilities.
As an offensive lineman, you blocked for Joe Flacco for many years. Obviously, a completely different type of quarterback, and the offense was much different than it is today with the team you're at. So how does your role change just from learning schemes and plays and things like that maybe 2-3 years ago were much different than where you guys are from an offensive perspective today?
Yeah, you said it. It's just totally different. Their skill sets are pretty much polar opposite, and they can both work great in the right circumstance.
Yeah.
But it's just so unique. Lamar's ability to run the ball. But also, this year everyone's seen his ability to throw the ball, which, makes him even more of a threat. So just having that ability and having to, as a defense, having to prepare for, him being able to do anything and everything on any play has to make it tough on them. And we obviously have a ton of great players, all over the offensive and defensive side of the ball that are making everything easier for everybody. So it's obviously a team effort, but when you have someone like him that can do some of the things he can do, it just makes it really tough on a defense to honor the run and the pass and everything in between.
What have you learned personally about yourself this season? Because you're not starting every game now, and it's a different sort of role for you, but you're still a
Yeah.
part of the team. What has been the big lesson for you in this journey? Because you came undrafted, so you kind of have had to earn every single snap and penny that you've earned in playing in the NFL when you go undrafted. But what's this year taught you so far?
I think just, a lesson in patience. Obviously, everyone in the league and trying to be in the league, everyone wants to start and play every single, play of the game. But first and foremost, it's just a huge blessing to be in the NFL. It's a big dream for pretty much everyone growing up. And just to say that you've accomplished, getting to that level is a huge blessing. So always remember to be grateful for that in times where, you're not playing as much, or you want to be playing, but it's not just it's not falling your way. So it's been a lesson in being patient because injuries do happen. And you got to be ready to step in and not miss a beat. But just to be patient in those times when you're kind of waiting and preparing for that opportunity that will definitely come.
From a spiritual side, James, I know you lead team Bible studies. I'm really fascinated with the sort of dynamic in the clubhouse, if you will. It's not really a clubhouse, but in the locker room and away from the field from a faith perspective. Tell me about maybe some of the weekly disciplines you've had during, this long season to help you stay connected to God.
Yeah. I'd say the biggest one for my wife, Amanda, and I is the couples Bible study. We've been leading it for, this was our third year leading it together. And we've had each year more and more participation, which is just God showing us the fruit, and stepping out and being courageous and spreading His word and trying to witness for Him. So he's shown us that. But that's just so great to get, the guys and the girls together in the same room, reading the word, talking about, how it applies to our life and how it applies to, each little subject that the lesson, that week talks about. But it's just been, it's been huge for community on the team, and knowing that, although this is a tough business and, guys come and go pretty often and pretty quickly at times, that there's always people you can trust and talk to and can confide in with serious matters. And that's really reassuring to know that, you're not alone. So that's huge for us. And, Johnny Shelton does a great job with the chapel services, on Sundays, and just always having his door open for guys to pop in and, talk and ask questions and, just ask for prayer. So we've really got a great group and a great support network on the Ravens for strengthening your faith and, being held accountable and always having people there to talk to.
When people hear, a couple's Bible study, what does that look like each week? Is it like an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe some food and some fellowship, and then a Bible study? What does that exactly entail?
So the way we kind of do it, we got this from Ben and Kirsten Watson. They were here for a few years. I guess like 4 years ago now. It seems like a long time ago. But we kind of modeled after how they did it. We really respect them and admire them for how they lead through the Spirit on their teams. But for us, it's about an hour, 15 minutes. We really try to respect everyone's time. It's always tough to, pick a night of the week during the football season that's quote unquote best to have a Bible study, because it's easy to find an excuse to not go to Bible study or to not want to host a Bible study. You can always go with the I'm tired route, or with the, we've got a big game coming up. I've got to, study. I've got to do that. So we do it on Wednesday nights, kind of middle in the week, where the stress is somewhat low, or I should say lower than it is some other days of the week. But yeah, it's about an hour and 15 minutes. We have snacks, donuts, whatever, and kind of sit around, talk for a little bit. And we usually try to do like a little short video, a message on either the book we're reading, or if it's just a video sermon, then, we focus on that, and then we discuss certain questions. Like this year we did The Meaning of Marriage by Tim Keller. That was the book we did, and they had kind of a discussion video. So we watched that and just talk about, certain questions, talk about scriptures that, relate to the topic. And just try to be vulnerable and but also private and understanding that, people are trying to open up. So we want to keep everything in-house.
How intimidated were you, or maybe you weren't, when you were first asked to lead this couple? And how did it even come about that you were asked to lead this couple's Bible study? I remember the first time for me, I lead a what we call a life group at our church here in Connecticut every Tuesday night. And I remember maybe it was 6 years ago, when my pastor said he wanted me to lead, I yelled at him. Basically, I'm like, "No, you got the wrong guy. I don't want. I'm not a leader. I'm not a Bible study guy. No way." And then he's like, "Come on, God is calling you. You know it." And I said, "All right, I'll try it." And now I've been doing it for 6 years, and I love it. How was that for you? That first time somebody said, "Hey, come on, James, you're going to lead this thing."
Yeah, it sounds really similar to my experience. Ben and Kirsten actually asked/challenged Man and I to lead when they were kind of on their way out.
Yeah.
And my first thought truly was like, man, I'm not equipped for this. I don't have a broad enough base of knowledge of the Bible, and I don't, there's so many questions that I don't think I can answer, and this and that. And I, kind of realized it was just me trying to make excuses. But, really credit to my wife. She pushed me in the direction, and, like you said, just to understand that God's challenging you, and, he has equipped you with exactly what you need to lead this study and to lead people on your team. So, we accepted that challenge, and each year it's been better and better, and we've been more comfortable, and it's been extremely rewarding for both of us to be able to do that, to step up to the plate and, try to help people as best we can. And honestly, we're honored to have that chance to do that every year.
And you mentioned Johnny Shelton. He's your team chaplain with the Ravens. Right. He posted an Instagram photo of you and him baptizing rookie quarterback Trace McSorley a few weeks ago. And I thought that was such a cool moment, just seeing not only Trace get baptized, but seeing you as a player assisting in that baptism, it's quite an honor. And again, I go back to the first time I ever baptized someone and thought, I am not qualified to be in this pool right now, baptizing someone. But where does a moment like that rank for you in all that's happened with this team in 2019?
It's really been number one. That was the first time that I've helped baptize somebody. And, Johnny had a huge part in Trace's decision, and, challenging him to that, and, kind of helping him understand what that decision means in his life. And, he asked me to help with the baptism, and I was kind of floored, to be honest with you. But it was just so cool to be in that moment and, be touching someone that's making such a massive life-changing decision, and to know that, his perspective on life and perspective on his priorities are going to massively shift, from that moment on. So it was a huge blessing to be able to be a part of that, and to just help in, such a big moment in someone's life.
James Hurst is our guest here on Sports Spectrum. Baltimore Ravens offensive lineman. They got a short week this week, playing Thursday night at home against the Jets. Do you not like these short weeks? I have to imagine they're tough on a player, an offensive lineman, just in the trenches all the time, and then having to play a short week like this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really short turnaround. You're almost playing another game in half the time that you normally get to prepare for a game. So physically, it's really demanding. Just being able to recover and get your legs back under you and get ready to play another, physical game, especially for linemen. You got to really buckle down and lock in for it's like 4 days that you have to get ready. So, and just do everything you can to be in the best shape possible for Thursday.
Yeah, I guess it's on the other side. If you can get out of there with a W, you look at it as an extended bye late in the year, which is a good way to recover for a lot of players too. So
definitely
I guess there's positive and negatives to everything in this league.
There is.
Before we let you go, we got to hear your testimony. We always ask that to all the guests here on the podcast. Can you share a little bit about your testimony of faith and maybe where that took shape for you when Christ came real to you in your life?
Yeah. So I'll start with just growing up. I grew up in Indiana, and my parents raised me in the church. So, all the way through high school, we were going to Sunday school and church almost every week, and, that was a priority. And then I went to college, and I went to University of North Carolina, so I was pretty far away from home. Mm-hmm. And that's the first time, in everyone's life really, where mom and dad aren't there and they're not making your decisions for you, and you have all this freedom and you can choose to do with that what you will. So I kind of fell away from going to church, miss a Sunday here or there, and then that kind of became the norm, is not going to church. And on the field at the time, everything was going, so great and according to plan. And I was playing and playing well as a young guy at a Division I school, so that was accomplishing a lot of dreams for me. But my sophomore year, I kind of realized that, something was missing. I had accomplished all these goals on the football field, and I was having, such a great time in school and meeting people and, just playing well, but I wasn't really happy. That sense of joy just wasn't there. And it was pretty confusing for me, I'd say, because it seemed like I should be, perfectly happy, but I just wasn't. So I kind of reverted back to how I was raised and prayed to God one night that he would show me what I was missing, and that he would speak to me and give me some sort of a sign to kind of point me in the right direction. And so God obviously answers our prayers in the best ways possible. So he had me meet a college girl. So that opened my eyes pretty quickly. And Amanda she was raised in the church. She was very, very strong in her faith and owned it completely. And when we first started dating, we would talk on the phone, and she challenged my faith essentially, and asked, did I know what the gospel was? Had I heard the gospel? Was I a Christian? She made it very clear to me that she was not going to date anybody that she was kind of unsure of their faith. That was extremely important to her, and she knew that she was going to date somebody of strong faith. So for weeks, I guess, early on, we would talk on the phone, and she would answer any questions I have, and she shared the gospel with me and made it very clear what that meant and how that looks in her life. And she really, her and a guy named Grant Miller, who discipled me, both of them together really led me to my faith, to owning my faith and choosing that as a part of my life. And I'm obviously very grateful to her for that. And we got married, so I think I picked a great one. But yeah, that's kind of my story, and it's evolved from there and taken off from there.
That's cool. I love that story. We're thank God for our wives, right, James?
No doubt, no doubt.
So true. Now you have a birthday coming up, December 17th. You turn 28.
Yep.
Do you ever get a chance to celebrate your birthday the last, I guess, 5-6 years, even with the NFL and everything? You're probably in the midst of the end of the season, I would assume, every year.
Yeah, you get to, depending on the day of the week that it falls. Like if it's on a Monday or Tuesday, we're off Monday, and then we have a short day on Tuesday, so you can find time to, go celebrate then. But if it's later in the week, it's really hard to find a whole lot of time. I feel like, though, I've gotten pretty lucky the last few years because I can remember us doing things for my birthday, so it must have fallen on the right night.
This year it's on a Tuesday, so maybe Amanda's got something cooking for you. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope she does. She's smiling right now, so maybe we're tapping into some secrets right there.
There you go. Well, we'll keep an eye out, and we'll check back in with you to see how the birthday celebration went.
Sounds good.
All right, as we get closing down shop here, let me ask you the question I ask all of our guests here on Sports Spectrum. What's the lesson that God is teaching you right now? You mentioned patience was a lesson you've learned this season, but what's the lesson God's teaching you today? Because it feels like every day we wake up, there's something new that the Lord is showing us in our lives. What is the Lord showing you right now, James?
I think he's just challenging us to trust in him. I say us, Amanda and I.
Oh, yeah.
Just to trust him through it all, that, he's got a plan that's so much bigger and better than anything that we can imagine. And even though, things might take a turn for the worse here and there, or they're not quite going, according to our plans, that we got to get down on our knees and pray and, ask that, we can trust in him and trust in his sovereignty in our lives. And I think, he rewards that type of faithfulness. So that's what he's teaching me right now. And, that's something I've been praying for every day here lately, just to put my whole heart and, my quote unquote planning for the future in his hands, and know that, he's got this.
There's a great line. Every time we make plans, God just sits up there and laughs. Isn't that funny?
That's about right.
It's so true. James Hurst, Baltimore Ravens offensive lineman. Thanks for the conversation. I know it's a short week. We really appreciate your time, and look forward to catching up. And we'll see you at PAO in February.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thanks, James. Great stuff there from James Hurst, Baltimore Ravens offensive lineman. Dare I say, the spiritual leader of the Ravens when you're talking about leading couples Bible studies and baptizing teammates. I mean, that's just awesome stuff that's going on with the Baltimore Ravens. And that's the side that I like to bring to you guys. It's easy to have Lamar Jackson on, and maybe someday we'll have Lamar on to talk about his faith and to talk about God or whatever. But I want to hear what's really going on, and James Hurst is the perfect guy because he's leading Bible studies and seeing guys commit and submit to Jesus throughout an NFL season. And that's the behind the scenes stuff that I'm interested in. It's great to see a team do well on the field, but what's really happening behind the scenes from a spiritual perspective? Seems like really good things are happening with the Baltimore Ravens. Many thanks to James Hurst. You can give him a follow over on Instagram. That's where he is. Just search his name. You'll see a verified account and the big Baltimore Ravens number 74 in his profile picture. James Hurst. We didn't even get a chance to talk about his love for coffee. I read that he wanted to start a coffee shop someday, and hopefully we'll have him back on, and maybe who knows, maybe we'll see him at the Super Bowl in Miami, and we can ask him about his coffee shop desires and certainly all that the Lord is doing in his life. Thanks to James, and thanks to you for listening. This was a bonus episode. We wanted to get it out to you as quickly as we could because the Ravens play Thursday night. Quick turnaround. December 12th, they play against the New York Jets, try to make it 12 wins on the season for the Baltimore Ravens. And we thank you for listening to this episode of Sports Spectrum. One quick shout out to our new podcast coming Monday, December 16th. It's called Football Sunday, and it features former and current NFL players talking about what God is doing in their lives or has done in their lives through the first-person storytelling ability of these players. Powerful stories of God moving profoundly in their lives. It's called Football Sunday. A chance to subscribe right now wherever podcasts are found. Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. It's called the Football Sunday Podcast. You don't want to miss it. Go subscribe right now everywhere podcasts are found. Football Sunday. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow with a brand new episode here on Sports Spectrum's podcast. One of my favorites, Bill Curry, the longtime NFL and college football legend, broadcaster, coach, player, full of wisdom. You don't want to miss Bill Curry tomorrow on Sports Spectrum. Love you guys. See you next time. This is the Sports Spectrum Podcast. Have a great rest of your day.